Yay. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, lovely people. This is Marie Alessi with yet another episode of Unsilence Grief. And today I've got the lovely Michelle Bader Ebersole next to me, who I met on Podmatch. I've mentioned this platform so many times, I don't even know, because it is really a beautiful platform where I have connected with such amazing people who are so aligned with the message that I have to the world, who are aligned with the topic of unsilenced grief. Let's talk about that today. And
All
without further
right.
ado, I just want to welcome you, Michelle. Can you do us the honor and introduce yourself to our audience, please? Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I've been on Podmatch very shortly, like a month or two, and I was so excited when you matched with me. Like the algorithm came together and said I should meet you, and then I was like, she needs to be on my podcast, and we connected, and it was so great. So,
Then I heard you
I
saying, like, you need to be on my podcast. And here we
right. That's that happens a lot as I get going with these shows. So I am a mother of three kids that are 17, 19, and 21. So just one living at home his senior year. And I live in Washington and I love anything outdoors like paddleboarding, hiking, swimming. Like I love the summer. So it was a little bit hard being cold, but it's all good. And my husband, Luke, passed away 5 years ago from cancer. Hard journey, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. And then I also remarried about 2.5 years ago to my husband, Joel.
Mhm.
And it's been a really fun journey, getting to be married to him and all of those things. And I was an elementary teacher before I was widowed. And then I took a total different direction as life changes. And I went back to teaching for a little bit and I was like, no, this is not what I want to do anymore. I want to help widows. And
Yeah.
so I started, the first thing I did was start a podcast, Widowed Too Soon,
Hold on, hold
what
on,
you were
hold
on.
on. And we are already way too far ahead in a story. I need
Oh,
to know.
sorry.
No, 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 no. It's absolutely fine. I'm just sitting here going, like, hold on. I want our audience to know your story first before we got
Okay.
into what you did with it. Because I already know your story and I absolutely love what you've done with it. But I really want to share a little bit more about. So you were an elementary teacher. How old were
Hmm.
your kids? Were you a teacher before you had kids?
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
briefly, because I got married and had kids right away, but yeah, a little bit.
Awesome. So, how long have you been teaching all up?
Altogether, I mean, off and on, just like 10 years.
Yeah.
I was in the classroom a lot and did a lot of other things. I did a lot of tutoring.
Yeah.
Um, but I got pregnant. So Luke and I got married in 2003. So Luke and I met in high school. And
Oh,
then after college, we like reconnected, got married. I found out we were pregnant within a couple months. So not what we were planning. But it
plan.
was a very good thing. And then that's when he had a lump in his ankle. And he had went to the doctor actually before we got married, and they're like, "That's tendonitis." He was 25, I was 24.
Yeah.
And then it just kept getting worse. So after we got married, he went back to the doctor, and then they said, "Okay, we need to do a biopsy. We're not sure what this is."
Yeah.
So after the biopsy, he was diagnosed with a very rare bone cancer. It's called mesenchymal chondrosarcoma. And we were completely shocked. I
Yeah.
had no idea. We were just newlyweds. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And my whole, like, I was devastated, completely devastated and completely shocked. He had been like all-star athlete, just really active, never been sick, like
Yeah.
really, except for ear infections his whole life. And so then we started chemo and well, me by his side,
Mhm.
and it didn't work. It didn't shrink the tumor. It didn't do anything but make him sick. So then, after a long decision, decided to have his leg amputated because the good news was the cancer was only in his leg, nowhere else. And so we could rid his body of cancer. And so we considered that his cancer-free day, the day that he had May 7th of 2004, he had his leg amputated. And that would be the day we would celebrate every year if you're cancer-free because it was nowhere else in his body.
Yeah.
Now, he did have a ton of other problems that happened and complication from all the chemo and all the things over the years. So he was never really fully healthy after that. But we went on to have two more kids. So Hayden was born with Luke was still on crutches. He didn't have his prosthetic leg. He was just like on crutches holding my hand while I was giving birth to Hayden. And then we went on to have two more kids in 3.5 years. So we had like 3.5-year-old, 18 months, and newborn, partly because we were told we couldn't have any more kids, but we were able to.
Hmm.
So it was an amazing, amazing, crazy time in my life. Fast forward about 13 more years, lots of other complications in between. Um, so 13 years from the time of his amputation, he was noticing that he thought it was his liver that was hurting. He ended up getting a scan and they found tumors on his lungs. So that was a complete shock. And this time, our kids were, I think, 9, 11, 13, something like that. They knew about his cancer. We had talked about it. I'd written a book about it that they had read. So they knew his whole cancer journey. But this time it was like, so much harder with kids. And they were like, well, he's going to beat it, right? I'm like, well, we're going to do chemo. We're going to do everything that we can. And we were very optimistic in the beginning. So he started down the chemo path, which he didn't want to do, but we didn't know anything else to do. And it did not work, which was devastating. So it was about 3 years, I believe, about 3 years of fighting the cancer, treatments, all the things. And he eventually passed away May 23rd, 2020, which was right during COVID, which made things very difficult. But we had some amazing, amazing times. We just really embrace this, like, let's live every moment, let's make memories. And there's this place called the Dream Foundation, and they give last wishes to terminal adults. Now, usually it's for children, so it's hard to find one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a friend told me about it. And so they paid for us all to go to Disneyland. They paid for our plane tickets to get into Disneyland. And we had never been there before. We'd never been on a plane together. We just couldn't afford it because he
Yeah.
wasn't working and I was a teacher. Like we just didn't have a lot of money. And so we got to go to Disneyland, and we have this amazing video. He was on a scooter because he couldn't walk that well. And he's in front of the castle and he goes, I made it, world. I made it. And it's just like this beautiful memory. And we have so many great pictures from
I
that
love this
trip.
so much. You wouldn't believe the timing that you're sharing this story with me, because yesterday I spent an all day like all day at an event by Peter Merritt, who's Australian Keynote Speaker of the Year 2024, and Doug Libb,
Oh,
who was trained by Disney. Um,
oh,
from Disney University. So I spent an entire day with them at this amazing, amazing event, and talking about all the little things that make such a big difference in people's lives. And now you sharing that memory, I'm like, wow, the synchronicity of it all. It's
yeah.
it's just amazing. And just before we came live, I actually wrote my LinkedIn love letter about the experience yesterday, and all
Oh, cool.
little differences that make such a big difference in people's lives. And I so often talk about the hidden gifts in adversity,
Mhm.
when you can actually see what's happening, but turn that into, rather than despair, like, let's squeeze the last drop out of this, because this is incredible. We have this time together, and more than anyone else, we know how precious that is. And I
Yeah.
can't even put into words how much I love this for you, that you got to do
Mhm.
that, and that you had the mindset and the readiness and the openness to allow that. That is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, people stepped up. A couple other really amazing memories is so he was there's this college football team, Oregon Ducks, and he was like a big fan. And somebody got us into like all the back, like locker room and all the things. We got to go on the field when nobody was. It was like a dream for him. And it was just amazing, amazing memory. And then I love this memory. So there's a restaurant that he loved, and it's my daughter's favorite. It's called Red Robin, and it was COVID, so everything's closed, and it was her birthday. Her birthday is May 5th, so a couple weeks before he died. And somebody stepped up who knew somebody at corporate, and they started sending all these cards to Haley, like this huge thing. And then they also delivered dinner to us. So we were outside waiting. She didn't know what was happening. And we see this red robin walking down the street with like a whole parade of people and a big sign that says, Happy birthday, Haley. And we got to have this amazing, and they brought free dinner for all of us. And it was COVID, so it was only like us and the grandparents. But they brought us all food, and it was just this beautiful memory. I mean, we have so many things like that of people stepping up and helping create memories.
Wow.
And those are some of the last pictures we have with him. It was just a few weeks before he died.
Mm,
So I can look at so much good. It was COVID, so my kids were all home from school. And so I look at that as look at this extra time we have with your dad. Every single night we would watch movies together and have popcorn, like for the last few months of his life. And it was such a beautiful thing. I mean, I have this note on my phone with every movie we watched, and it was just like this beautiful time that I can look back and say, whoa, like Haley and I, she was in eighth grade. We're supposed to go to Washington, D.C. for this big trip, but it was canceled. And she was really upset. But
yeah.
later, now she's 19 now and can look back and be like, I'm glad we didn't go. We got an extra week with daddy. And
Yeah.
so you can see those things. You can look back and go, okay, I understand now
Mm,
why, some of these things happen. And so we really, really tried to make the most of every single moment. And, he died a little bit before we thought. So he had cancer, but he ultimately died of a blood clot.
mm,
So not what we expected. He was complaining of his calf hurting, and eventually that's when he passed away. And the doctor said, they didn't do an autopsy, but they're like, I'm sure it was a blood clot. But it was a blessing because we didn't have to see him suffer and go through that last, they said he had about a month, and he did not want to do all that. He was still fully functional until he died. So I can see a lot of good.
were you all with him when he passed over?
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah. It was early in the morning, and I'll never forget waking up my kids. It was like 4 in the morning, and the hospice nurse was on the phone and said, You should wake up your kids. And I'll never forget Haley. She was 14, just screaming, No, it's not time. I'm like, I'm sorry, it is. But we were able, and the great thing is, I saw him suffer, but nobody else did. Once they got in the room, he was just calm. Like, no, like he was kind of trying to breathe hard before they got in the room. And it was this peaceful. I called his mom and my mom, and I was talking to him and telling the kids, talk to him. He can hear you. I feel like God gave me this supernatural peace to just be completely calm for them.
yeah.
But after, once they left the room and it was just me and his body and my mom, that is when I lost it. But yeah, we were able to be with him, which I think is a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely is. Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing this story. It is such an amazing gift to me, like hearing something from someone who's walked a path. All our paths are so, so different, even though we are all in
Right.
this space of widowhood and grief, and yet all our stories, our love stories, are so unique and so
Hmm.
different. And I just love highlighting them and holding
Hmm.
space for people to share their story. Michelle, you've done
Hmm.
something really, really incredible with what you have lived through as you, Michelle, as a couple, the two of you, as you as a mom, and you've created something really amazing and incredible. And before we get there, because I do want to share that. It's so close to my heart what you do, what you offer, and the books that you've created and everything through that. But what strikes me the most in your journey is what a lot of people wish for, hope for, are freaking scared of, and that is finding love again after being
Hmm.
hurt. And in my own journey, and I'm more than happy to share that very openly, I know that my heart is wide open for somebody new to come into my life. And at the same time, I also know that my heart has got a lot of fear still sitting there. And I often talk about that with my clients, where I feel there's only so much work that you can do in theory, in your healing
Right.
journey, in your processing, in your walking through grief, in again, your very unique way. And then there is the next step when you actually meet someone, and then that fear comes up. What if I lose again?
Hmm.
What if I, and there's this other, but what if you love again? There's all these different voices in your
Yes.
head, and all of them are very valid. Can you talk us through that a little bit? How was that journey for
Mm.
you when you met Joel, and how did you meet?
Yes. So Joel and I went to college together.
Oh my.
Had completely lost touch. And I think it was around a year after Luke died, I was like, okay, I'm kind of open to start looking. I don't know what's out there. And he came across my Facebook feed as someone you may know. We weren't even connected on Facebook. I'm like, I kind of remember that guy. And so I just friended him. And then we started talking and then like video chatting and then talking every day. And then he lived in Louisiana, which is very far from where I live in Washington. And turned out he had family in this area. So he came out to see them and meet me. And we'd been talking every day for 2 months. And so when we met in person, he already told me, he's like, I love you. Like, I know it. And so we started down this path of figuring out long distance and all the things. And we ended up getting engaged at our college. We went to a homecoming event with my best friend and him, and she was in on it and knew that he was going to propose. And I played soccer in college, and so we went to the soccer fields, and that's actually where he proposed to me, which was really sweet. But I remember that weekend when flying home, I was like, wait, if I get married again, I could be widowed again. I don't know if I want to do this. Like it all of a sudden
Yeah.
came into my head. And then I kind of settled on, just like it's better to have loved and lost than never loved again. I was like, it's better to have loved and lost a second time than never loved again. That's kind of where I landed. And I was like, I can't just sit here and live in fear of the future. I'm just going to go for it, and it's been one of the best experiences of my life because it's really important when you date someone, when you're widowed, that they understand that your spouse will always be part of you. We have
Yeah.
pictures of Luke. We talk about Luke.
Yeah.
Joel gives me flowers to take to Luke's grave. Like he's very
Joel
respectful.
knew because
Joel is my current husband. Yeah.
yeah,
Luke is
yeah,
my
yeah, I know, but it's just that did he know Luke? Because you met Luke in
no.
different
No, it's kind of funny
different
because,
schools.
it was
Okay.
like high school and then I went to college where I met Joel, but then I married Luke, lived life. Then I married the person I knew from college. It's very strange.
I love that
Yeah,
though.
so no,
That's
they
beautiful.
didn't know each other at all.
Yeah.
But he from the beginning was very respectful of my love for Luke, my work with widows, and knowing that's all part of like who I am and that Luke made me who I am today. He's
Yeah.
was married for 17 years,
Yeah.
and it's a journey. And so I love talking to widows who are dating again. And a lot of them, they tell me red flags. If their person can't handle them talking about their late spouse, that's it. Like you're not even married and he's already there.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be with someone who not only respects it, they want to know. They ask questions. Tell me about him. I want to know, tell me some memories. And
Beautiful.
so Joel has always been super respectful of that. And with my kids, I mean, that was another hurdle. Um, they were very open to it. Like they're not,
How
I
old
wouldn't
were
say
they
they're
when you started dating Joel?
so let's see, it's been we'll be married 3 years in March. So they were probably about, let's say, 12, somewhere like 12, 14, 16, somewhere in there when we started dating.
Yeah.
Because we dated almost 2 years before we got married.
Mm.
And so they were, especially the boys, I think had two boys and one girl, they were a little bit, had a harder time with it. But Haley, my daughter, would always just say, I just want you to be happy. Just want you to be happy. But yet she admitted that at my wedding, it was one of her hardest days. She said, you've moved forward. We'll never have a new dad, but you're a new husband. And
Yeah.
that was kind of like a hard thing for her. And Joel's been very clear since day one. I'm never going to try to be your dad. I am another support person in your life. And so that's been great. And I would say probably my youngest is the closest to him because they've had the most time together. My other two don't live here anymore.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
Wow. Absolutely beautiful. Michelle, tell us a little bit about the work that you do with widows and about the books that you've written.
Yes. So, really early in my journey, I started feeling better, like about 6 months in. And, I'm very faith-based, and I felt like, God's like healing my heart. And so I want to help other people. I didn't go through this just to sit here and not help anybody else.
Mm.
So, actually, my first thing I did was I started a TikTok account. I actually, somebody told me you should go on TikTok. And I was like, what? Isn't that just people dancing? But I learned it was so much
That's what I
more.
said. I said the exact same
Yes.
thing.
Yes, but there's a huge widow community on TikTok, huge. So I got very good response from that, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of people who need this. And then I started a podcast. I was not even a year out. I was 11 months out when myself and a widower, we were like, okay, we need to do this. And so we started it. So we had the widower perspective, and he had little kids, and I had teenagers and started that, and that has been going now for 4 years, and it's been an amazing thing. But that was the next thing I did. I was like, okay, what else can I do to support widows? And then there's a couple more things that I did. I searched high and low for a group for widows. I checked churches, I checked everywhere. There was absolutely nothing. So I started a nonprofit for widows that's still going called Widow Goals. And we are now in 30 cities in US and Canada. And basically what we do is we just get together once a month. And yesterday we had what we called Friendsgiving, like Thanksgiving, but just friends getting together. There were 20 women at my house last night, and just all ages. The youngest, there's a couple of them in their 30s, and the oldest are in their 80s, and everywhere in between. And we've been bond on this common thing. So, anyways, I started groups for widows, and also with the nonprofit, started giving gifts to widows when I'd hear about them, reaching out to them. And then the next thing that I did is I wrote a book called Widow Goals: Steps to Finding Peace When You Lose Your Spouse. And I had started it years ago, put it down, and then I was like, you know what? It's almost the 5 year anniversary of Luke's death. I am going to get it out on that day. And so it became this like, I had a deadline, and it was a very important deadline to me because I wanted to honor him in this way. And so I got it done and did release it on May 23rd, 2025. And it's basically, you can take the goals in any order: get
Mm,
out of bed, um, re enter social spaces,
mm,
know that it's okay to be angry. This
mm,
one was actually one of the last chapters I wrote. Remember, it's okay to remember honestly, even the hard parts, because so often we don't want to think about those.
mm.
And anyway, so there's
You know,
like 30 different goals. Go ahead.
just on what you just said, to remember the hard parts. I've noticed that a lot of people glorify situations and
Yes.
or people after they died, and then there is for children in particular, it's done often the confusion. But don't you remember this, or don't you remember that, or why does nobody? It's almost like it's brushed under the rug, and
Yeah.
it's really, I find that very, very important to allow all of it, everything that happened in a journey, in particular when you go through a cancer journey like you shared, the amputation, there were so many moments that were definitely not beautiful,
Yeah.
what the ugly moments or the hard moments or the really deep down, the things that you don't really enjoy talking about moments actually lead you to. That is the beauty of the whole journey, that coming back to what I said, that the hidden gifts in adversity, and you share so many of them, and the space that you hold for widows is incredible.
hmm Yeah, it's something I really enjoy doing. So after I created the book, I wanted to take it a little bit deeper. And there are questions at the end of every chapter, but I wanted to create more. So I made a workbook that just dives deeper, has space for prayers and all kinds of things. And so I took a group of widows. Actually, we're almost done. We have 2 more weeks through this on Zoom. Every Wednesday, we get together, and they're kind of like my test group. So we've been going through it. And as I've been doing it, I've created a leader's guide. So the point can be that anyone, even if you're not widowed, now widowed it's gonna be easier if you are as the leader. But I'm thinking specifically in churches. Let's say that there's no one to lead it. Anyone could lead it by using this book. And my passion right now is especially getting this into churches because there's not a lot of support. And it's an 11-week support program for widows and widowers to be able to, heal through their grief and find community. And because there's no community when I started, that's why I had to bring people together. And so it's something I'm really, really passionate about.
I really love that you say that, because I was the same. I felt like there was no community around. Like
Yeah.
I had started the group called Loving Life After Loss, and it made me smile because I actually archived the group on my husband's fifth passing anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Time to step up and do something different. So I went into speaking and more workshops, etc. But there was this time where I felt I had taken like 5,000 people on a healing journey, because I was on this search of what can I do, or where can I find what I want, my community, my people, the ones that believe in that you're allowed to experience joy and love again and can heal from this. And most, or to that point, for me, it was all of the widow support groups that I found were not supportive at all. They very
Mm-mm.
they were just very drag me down, heavy.
Yeah.
Everything's always going to be doom and gloom, and this like there was this sense of stuckness in there, like mud that you can't get out of once you put your foot in there. And I could never spend more than 5 or 10 minutes in a group without being out of breath. I could literally not breathe. Being,
Wow.
how is that supposed to be a support group? And they some of them even had that word support in a title, and I'm like, there's nothing supportive about this group,
Hmm.
nothing. And I did stay in some of the groups for a little while, but I have to be honest, it was more for research purposes as
Right.
what do people actually need. I could feel the need in the group, but no solutions. So I talked to
Hmm.
it, I offered it in my groups, in my group. Yeah, I had various other groups then, but it was just, I think what you did is phenomenal because I also feel that when you offer that work, you always help yourself as well. It's always
Hmm.
that, so you step
Oh,
up,
yeah.
you step up, they step up, you just lead that way. And um,
Right.
so see you shine doing that. And
Thank you.
I'd love for you to, before we go, maybe share how can people connect with you? What can they expect when they do come into one of your programs or read the books? Share a little bit about what to expect in Widow Goals.
Yes. So, one of the best ways to connect with other people is we have a Facebook community. So, if people just search for Widowed Too Soon community, there's over 13,000 people who are supporting each other. I love it because it's not just me.
Is that on,
Um, what was that?
did you say, is that on Facebook?
Yes, just
Yeah.
widowed too soon with the number two community. I love that group. That's a great place to find support and to find more about. I also do retreats and a lot of things. People can go to widowgoals.org and that will have everything. It'll have information about the support program and the books and all of that. I mean, I've had a lot of good response that people have told me, and men too, women and men all over the world, that it's helped them to feel less alone and to move through their grief. And
Mm,
so you can expect that it is not going to be just, it's not my story. So I decided to flip it from a lot of books that I read. I decided to do 10% my story, 90% tools. Like, here's
mm,
the book. There's a time and place for that in memoirs and things like that. But this book, I wanted it to be my barely any of my story. Yes, there's examples and things that I use, and I want them to know they can trust me and connect with the author, like she's been through this.
mm.
But I really wanted to give something that was not just going to be, I read this book and that was great, but what do I do? It's step by step. And so people can take any goal that they want and work on that. So I believe it's a great program.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And for anyone listening to this, don't you worry if you missed it. We will be sharing the links in the show notes below. So any way how you can connect with Michelle, her website, the group, or the links to her books, we will be sharing the links in the comments below. So um, I always love it when my guests wrap up this session. So if there is one thing that you would like people watching this to take away from our conversation, what would it be?
And we didn't even talk about this, but this is my biggest piece of advice I give to people going through grief. Let yourself feel it. Do not stuff the feelings. If you feel it, you can't heal it unless you feel it. And so it doesn't matter if you're in the grocery store and you see that food that reminds you of your person you're lost, or you're walking down the street and something makes you sad. Let yourself feel it and know that it's okay and that there's really no wrong way to grieve. Like it can be any way. And that if you're here and there's breath in your lungs, you've got a purpose. And try to dig in and figure out what that purpose is, because you're still here and there's something here still for you.
I couldn't agree more. When you're still here, there's a purpose. I love that message. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
two love stories and so many beautiful, beautiful tools and ways to connect and ways to heal this. So I loved having you on the podcast. And anyone who enjoys these conversations, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell for our weekly updates on Unsilenced Grief. Thank you so much for being here. This is Michelle.
Thank